it's Jeannie B. Welcome back to another episode of Narrative Pride. So today I wanted to talk about bathrooms. So this is a big issue for the trans community, particularly perhaps slightly more important for trans women, but definitely figures in the impact and continual noise around the whole community, and definitely seems to at times forget that trans men actually exist, which I'm sure is equally as frustrating as the amount of targeted bigotry that trans women get in this space. So, from my own experience, the bathroom is a battleground, particularly public bathrooms. I have been socially transitioning for 2 years, particularly probably after about the first year, presented fairly feminine out in public, but very hesitant, and on only probably a couple of rare occasions in that time used a public women's space. Generally, I just went to the men's, or if there was one available, a gender neutral or unisex, which was ideal. And like when I found one of those places, particularly at an event or a large public place, it was a godsend because I didn't have to worry. And this is the sad truth of our experience. Just finding some place to pee is a big deal, and surprisingly quite a problem. Like, seriously, we just need to pee. But, more recently, after being on hormones for probably about 4 months, maybe a little bit less than that, I started using women's restrooms much more regularly. And part of that was, the fact that I was presenting a lot more feminine. My body had started to show signs of changing. My hair was definitely at a length. I'm confident with my makeup that, I could sort of put people at ease. And I knew that women would be concerned, particularly early in my transition, if they saw me in the bathroom. So I was a little bit wary of making those cis women uncomfortable. But the major reason why I didn't use women's spaces earlier on, despite the fact that, I was presenting feminine, I was growing my hair out, I was wearing makeup and all these things, was that, I was concerned. I was worried about some TERF, some gender critical nutter accosting me in the bathroom when I'm literally just trying to pee. It's the last thing I want. I'm literally there to do my business, wash my hands, and get the fuck out. Get out. Seriously, it doesn't need to be a thing. But because a lot of the rhetoric, a lot of the media keeps banging on about protecting women's spaces and this huge transgender threat and ridiculous amount of fear mongering, it is a thing. We are constantly afraid. And the fact that you've got people on social media going, if I saw a trans woman in there, I'd hit them, or I'd violently assault them. It sort of legitimizes that fear. So that was my reason for staying away, was I was genuinely afraid. But then at a certain point, I started to grow breasts, my body shape starting to change, starting to really get more defined hips. It's not necessarily safe to go into the men's room. And even before, when I was wearing makeup, it still wasn't and didn't feel necessarily safe to go into a men's room because, you're presenting in a way that is more feminine, which means that you are a target for misogynists, for, potentially sexual assault, but also for, homophobes who think you're a gay guy, you're effeminate, and just want to belt you up. So all the time in a lot of this period, there's sort of this, which one is the greater danger? And particularly somewhere along the lines, it became, for me, a matter of comfort of, okay, well, I still might get accosted in the female bathrooms. I think that's less likely now because of the way I present and the way I look. I'm now at greater risk potentially of going into a men's room. But at the same point, still prefer gender neutral. We'll still try and limit how often I need to use a public restroom. So particularly when I'm out, I drink a lot less water, which isn't necessarily healthy, particularly with hormones and doing voice training. It's less than ideal. But, just trying to limit the amount of times I go to the toilet to limit that discomfort and anxiety around actually the decision of where to go, who might be in there. It's terrifying sometimes, particularly if you're out at an event where there's alcohol or potentially drugs. It's even another level. But why do we feel this way? We feel this way because of that rhetoric and the conservative fear mongering that is particularly coming out of the United States and the UK. This notion of protecting women's spaces. Now, some people who are ill-informed might think this is legitimate. Oh, well, we don't want men in the restroom because, there is gender-based violence, and particularly we're having a lot of trouble with that in Australia, and our statistics are horrifying, and we need to take serious action. But if we actually look at statistics, look at information, bathrooms are not where any of that happens. So if we look at some statistics from America, in the space of a almost 20-year period, one of these Catholic fear-mongering groups found that there are 21 bathroom assaults involving trans people. Wow, 21. That's, seems high. There are more than 500,000 sexual assaults
in the same
time period.
So
21,
5,400,000. I wonder what the percentage of that is. It's 0.000038%.
Wow. That is statistically negligible. I think there's probably greater areas where we need to protect women that are definitely more alarming parts of concern. Statistically, there is no reason to justify bans on trans people using their preferred bathroom or the production of gender neutral bathrooms. What we perhaps should be doing to protect women, and this might be a really novel and somewhat left field idea, would be to catch, prosecute, and convict people that actually assault women and send the message that this behaviour is not acceptable. When you have a conviction rate of less than 50%, you have women that don't even report these assaults because they know it will go unpunished. And then when you have a media that then questions a woman when they come forward, is there any wonder why we have a problem with sexual assault and gender-based violence? It's because these people are not being consequenced. They feel like they can get away with it. And the fact that the conservative media, these TERFs, will scapegoat a minority group to be seen as doing something is disgusting. Furthermore, we have peer-reviewed studies that show that there is no empirical connection, no evidence that actually supports bathroom bans. We also have university and peer-reviewed studies that show the negative impact of these bans, particularly on teenagers. We see that transgender youth and non-binary youth have a high victimization rate in bathrooms in schools. That increases quite significantly, especially for trans girls, by a ratio of 2.92 as soon as we implement a bathroom ban. It makes sense. We're putting trans girls who are trying to present more feminine, who are small, who are quite clearly becoming targets into male bathrooms. Of course they're going to get victimised more. But we don't care because we're protecting women's space. Not to mention the fact that we're also, by promoting these bans, actually saying that it is okay to discriminate this group. So, of course, the victimisation, the bullying will go up. And, of course, that has a flow-on effect with mental health. We have another study that shows that teenagers in these environments, 85% experience depressive mood and 60% contemplate suicide. Bathroom bans have a severely negative impact on the transgender community, particularly transgender youth. And they serve no purpose in protecting anyone. And to women who support these bans, who are either out of misguided understanding and a lack of ability to look at statistics and data, or potentially maybe out of fear because they have an experience with sexual assault, and I can sympathize and try to empathize with those women. But this isn't going to solve anything. It only harms all women and young people. So let's stop letting the Conservatives get away with this misdirection and actually put the demands on them. Why aren't they prosecuting rapists? Why aren't they doing more to protect women? Why aren't they going after misogynistic content online that promotes gender violence? How about doing something meaningful rather than attacking minorities? Demand something from your government to make a change, rather than falling for the nonsense that they keep trying to push on you, or the nonsense that the media backing these political parties are trying to completely whip up this paranoid fear. You're better than that. And for myself and for the rest of the trans community, we need you to be better than that because, we need to go pee. And we actually want to pee in safety and not be accosted by some maniac in a bathroom. And to the trans men out there, you guys don't get seen in this argument because apparently if you were asked to use your bathroom aligned with your gender assigned birth, no one would be concerned if these really buff looking guys walked into a woman's bathroom, which, would be, I would have thought, more off-putting than a trans woman like me going in. It doesn't make sense, let alone having no evidence. Okay, rant over, but we need to do better, and we need to stop falling for this shit. Hope this was enlightening. If you want to see more of these stats, read some of these studies, please go to my blog, narrativecuriosity.co. I've got some links there to have a look at. Trying to educate yourself because we need you to. Speak to you next time.